Welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast, strategies that help entrepreneurs build reputable and profitable brands. Here's your host, Henry Kaminski Jr.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast episode. Today, I have an amazing guest, Dean Graziosi, multi New York Times bestseller, phenomenal book, Millionaire Success Habits, read it a dozen times already. Finally got this guy on the show, man. I had to run him down for a few months, but Dean, welcome to the show, my man.
Dude, it's a pleasure to be here. I mean it. And, my schedule is insanity, but I love what you're doing and what other people are doing by sharing their own knowledge, sharing other people's knowledge, and making an impact. At the end of the day, when you live through impact, when you live through the eyes of service, not just the bottom line, what I've realized over, being an entrepreneur for 30 years is the bottom line automatically grows when you can shift that desire to serve other people. And I see that in your podcast. I see that in your passion. I see it in the first little meeting we had before we went live here. So I want to commend you for what you're doing. You picked a great avenue to serve, get paid, make money, change people's lives. What could be better than this? I could be, fixing cars still, and that would suck. So.
Seriously. So I had met you. Well, you first came into my world. I was in Russell Brunson's Inner Circle program for a couple of years, and he kept throwing your name around, and I was like, who the hell is this Dean guy? So real quick for my audience, snapshot of how you got started and what blew up into a multi-million-dollar enterprise.
Yeah, so real quick, I think a backstory helps, right? What I can't stand is when I hear a podcast, I know you don't do this, when someone spends a half hour talking about their life. Like, I'm sure you want to know who I am and where I came from, just enough to know if what the hell I say is credible or not, right? Like, that's what I'd want to know. So the only reason I'll share this is because I bet to say I was in the exact same place so many of you that are listening or watching right now. I was someone who knew that working for somebody else wasn't an option. I was someone who also felt that I didn't have the capabilities, that I was an underdog. I didn't come from money. I didn't go to college. I had dyslexia. Everybody in my family worked for someone or struggled. Like, I was the black sheep, the underdog. Like a lot of you probably have felt at one time in your life, maybe even right now while you're listening or watching, you feel like, man, the cards are just freaking stacked against me. I get that. So the only reason I'll share that is because I felt that my whole childhood. I felt it when my friends were going off to college and they were so excited they got accepted, and I knew I wasn't going. I felt it when I started working with my dad fixing cars and my hands were greasy every day, and I knew there was more for me, but I still had to go suck fumes and paint cars. And then when I'm in my early 20s, I decide not to go to college, and my dad goes through a really difficult time in his life and gives up on everything, moves out of his house, closes his collision shop. So now I'm 19, 20 years old. I didn't go to college. I don't have a degree. I don't have a future, and I'm just like, shit, for lack of a better word. My friends are going off to college. They seem happy. They're partying on weekends, and I'm freaking trying to make a living already at 19 years old. But all of that, I say all that because now at this phase of my life, I realize that was all designed for me. And that's some of the things I want to talk about today. Some of the things you think are holding you back are actually put in your life on purpose. I know that's easier said than done, but I'm 50 now. I can look back and say it was absolutely true. So when that happened with my dad, I had to figure a way to make stuff happen. So I started working on one car at a time out of this tiny little garage, then two cars. Then I ended up getting a collision shop on my own. I named it Dean Collision Center. Then I got an auto sales. Then I got enterprise rent-a-car account. And then Tony Robbins came into my life through an infomercial, and I saw the opportunity to share what I knew and impact people's lives. And I could make a living doing that because he transformed my life. And I decided in 1998 to create a course on how to profit from cars. Legit. I extracted what I knew. I created a course called Motor Millions. I didn't know anything else. I saw Tony on an infomercial, so I used every credit card I had, borrowed every dime I could, and I created an infomercial in 1998 called Motor Millions. It went on the air in 1999, and I'd love to say the rest is history. It was all a beautiful story since then. No shit sucked. I failed miserably. I lost all my money in between trying to figure it out, but I just had what you probably have listening or watching right now. I just had a desire. I knew there was more, and I wasn't freaking giving up. And most of the world gives up. So if anything can inspire you today, so you know my story, since that kid in a collision shop working out of a garage, I've gone on to write multiple New York Times best-selling books. My brands and my company broke $1 billion in sales years ago. I'm blessed right now that I have a new book coming out. I launched a course with Tony Robbins called The Knowledge Business Blueprint. We did the biggest launch in internet history. It's become a movement, changing people's lives all over. I get to be an amazing dad. I'm married to the woman of my dreams. And I'm not saying all that like, look at me. I'm saying because my life was hosed up and I was broke and I was sad and I was stressed. But through learning what you're going to learn today and what you learned by listening to Henry's podcast while you're a part of this, these are the capabilities that changed my life. It wasn't a magical money machine. It wasn't some epiphany that came from God and said, do this. I didn't invent anything. I just implemented different habits in my life. And instead of feeling like the underdog is a disadvantage, I found a way to turn that into my fuel and make shit happen. So I commend each and every one of you for listening right now, for being here, because this is the stuff that moves the needle. Not the people holding up checks and telling you get rich in 5 minutes and get to drive a Lambo. Not being rude. That I hope those things work, but without the stuff you're learning here, that'll never work. It'll just be a dream. So that's as quick as I could say it, brother.
I love it. Listen, man, I love it. You're a machine. So here's some of the things that have been coming in from my community that I think you're the perfect person to ask. So a lot of them have been starting new families, and I know, hey, congratulations. You got a little one on the way, I saw.
I do.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
On the way.
That is awesome. So as a new father myself, my little guy's 2 years old.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I find I've had people come to me and say, Henry, how do you still have that that risk tolerance? Because now you have a little guy, right? Now and I've gone through similar waves like you have, where you're on top and then you're way down below, and then you're on top again and you're down below. And then when you start to build this family, you start to feel like, whoa, I can't take those risks as much as I should or as I did in the past. How did you get through that?
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Henry, I appreciate you saying that. And it's funny. I never had that question asked. I think it's amazing. I love new questions. I hate when I get on a podcast and they ask me the same stuff they already know. So this is good. Let me ask you this. When your son is 90 years old, right, and he looks back on his life, would you like him to say, you know what I learned from my dad? To play it safe, not to go after my dreams. Don't take chances. Be consistent. I got goosebumps because you'd throw up if that's the way your son ended his life. So do you want to lead by example and say, all right, now that I'm a dad, let me not take risks. Let me just settle in. Let me find status quo. Let me be like everybody else. Screw that. Your son needs an example of a freaking badass who puts his freaking heart out there, who takes chances. And if he fails, he'll watch you rebound through a failure, which we all learn more through failures than we do through success. Anybody's fucking happy. I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, don't judge yourself when shit's going right. Everybody can be happy when everything's perfect and you make the team and you make the catch. My daughter, both my kids pitch. My daughter's a softball pitcher. My son's a baseball pitcher. They're 10 and 12, soon to be 11 and 13. Every time my daughter would lose a game, she'd get really sad, down on herself. She's amazing for her age. And I remember one day at 10 years old or 9 years old, we'd walk around the back of the car. She lost the game. And she fell apart. She was in 2 innings, killing it. Third inning, she just freaking fell apart, couldn't throw a strike. She's behind my car crying. And she's like, Dad, this is too much pressure for a 10-year-old. Exactly what she said to me. She's like, I don't need this much pressure at this age of my life. I'm not a teenager. I want to quit. I can't handle this. I let the whole team down. And I just listened to her and I said, babe, I know this is hard in the eyes of a 9 or 10-year-old, but I promise you, you learned more today than you did by the last 5 games that you won. I said, how does this feel right now? She goes, it feels terrible. I let everybody down. I said, why do you think this happened? I didn't give her any reasons. She said, because I haven't practiced as much lately as I used to, which was true. And I said, so how would we fix that? She's like, can I get a coach 2 days a week? I said, yes. And she said, she said, you want me to pay for half of it? Because I always do this thing, you pay half. I said, nope. If you'll dedicate the time, I'll pay for a coach to come to the house 2 days a week if you'll dedicate. She goes, and literally went from this feeling of pain and misery to, okay, I'll go twice a week. I said, what else can you do? She's like, I could try to stay focused. I was so down on myself. And all of a sudden I said, and to this day, that was 2-3 years ago, I said, when did you learn the most? She goes, that damn game, I almost quit. Right? So I digressed on that, Henry, but what I want to say to everybody is don't change who you are. You want your kid to see the best version of you. Let me ask you something, Henry. If you don't go for anything more, so say you're making, say you're making $1 million a year, 500 grand a year, whatever the hell you're making. I hope you're making 100 million a year, but let's say you're making $1 million a year or 500 grand a year. And you have this son and you go, you know what? I need to protect this. I just want to stay here and make that 500 grand a year. How will you feel as a man? Just tell me how you feel if you're not growing.
Basic.
Okay. How will that look to your son? Will you have that air of confidence if you're not going after your next level? Because we're all built to fucking achieve. Excuse my language.
No, go ahead. Listen, if I can't curse, I can't talk. So,
all right. So, but listen to me. We're all built to achieve. Those that convince themselves that they're okay where they are, it's bullshit. We are meant to achieve. But if you believe in God, the universe, whatever the hell you believe, I believe in God. He gave me these gifts to go use them. Like, could you imagine being at the end of your life, you're sitting with God and he's like, all right, Henry, I just got to be honest with you, brother. I gave you this ability to be risk tolerant. I gave you this ability to impact other lives. What the hell did at 35, 40, 45 years old, what the hell did you start coasting for? I didn't give you all this stuff just to freaking waste it. And I think we'll have this huge regret, like, shit, I was supposed to go for it, and I was supposed to set that example for your kids. Do you want your son to settle in anything in his life?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so as a Graziosi, I've been teaching my kids this forever. I said, as a Graziosi in our family, Graziosis it's solution oriented. Like, as a Graziosi, we find ways. So what I teach my kids is Graziosis find ways. I don't care if you get a no. I don't care if anybody tells you it's not possible. I don't care if your dad says, hey, I don't want you to be in a band. Tell your dad to go piss off. Because Graziosis find ways, because if you're a Graziosi and you're in a band, you're going to be in the best band that ever existed, or whatever they want, right? The other thing I tell my kids is make your own path. Graziosis make their own path, right? If I don't go after it, if I'm not showing my kids that I can lean into something listen, my kids heard me say a year and a half ago that Tony Robbins and I are going to fix the broken education system. Now, that's not saying we're going to launch a company. We're fixing something that's been broken for 50 or 100 years. And Tony and I said, we're fixing it. My kids don't go, oh, my dad thinks he's going to fix it. You know what my kids say? Holy shit, my dad and Tony are going to fix the education system. I want them to be older. And again, I'm getting passionate about this because everybody listening, I don't care if you don't have kids or your kids are older, this is the example we lead the world. The world needs more role models. We got some shitty-ass role models right now. A role model's an influencer with over 1 million views on his thing. He could be saying the worst thing, setting an example that bottle service and strippers are a good thing for kids. And that's our influence. We need real role models, and real role models are the ones taking risks, taking chances, changing the world, making an impact. And the last thing I'll say is remember that they don't make statues of critics. So you don't want your kids to grow up thinking, well, we played it safe. Anyway, I'm a little passionate about that because the other thing I tell my kids all the time, Henry, and I know this sounds terrible and some of you might disagree, but I told my kids I don't follow rules. I don't like the rules that my kids are getting taught in school. Like, my son has to go to the bathroom and the teacher says, no, I think you went enough. You can go between class. I told my kid, if you have to go to the bathroom, I'm so blessed, Henry. I have the greatest kids in the world. They don't get in trouble. They're straight A's. But besides all that, they're just good human beings. Like, legit. They don't look for trouble. My kids make bags for homeless kids. Like, I'm so blessed. Like, I know I did a good job, but I was just blessed with good kids. I told my son, I'm like, you got to go to the bathroom? I said, in real life, I have 100 employees just in my office. If one of my team members has to go to the bathroom, he doesn't have to ask me fucking permission. He goes to the bathroom. I said, if your teacher says no, you have my permission to ignore them and get up and go to the bathroom. And if you get suspended, we'll deal with that. I said, I don't like rules that make no sense. I don't like my kids go to a Christian school, but we have our own beliefs. I don't like when a teacher tries to give my kid their belief on Christianity, like at a deep level, not the philosophy, not being in a religion class. I'm talking about when they share their own beliefs that are like, hey, you'll never go to heaven unless you do this. It's like, I want my kids to figure that shit out. Right. So my whole point is I also don't like following rules. And I taught my kids that. And they've never gotten in trouble. They're not rude. And most of the time, like, Dad, I would never do that. But I'm instilling that. I don't want them to work for somebody someday and they tell them something like, it just doesn't make sense. So anyway, that was about my kids. I get passionate about it, but was it really about just my kids, or was it about life lessons for all of us, right? Yeah. Anyway, what's next?
Man, I love it, man. I love it. Another grand slam. So another thing that so you brought up a good point about how the Graziosi family has a brand. That is a brand. Yeah, not just in the business world, but in your personal world. Mm-hmm. And I want you to sort of, if we could go maybe a little bit deeper in that, because I want to get your perspective of branding, because that's what the Brand Doctor podcast is all about, is really helping folks brand themselves so that they can go on and create successes like yourself, like myself, and go on to, like, again, leave that legacy behind. I hear that word more and more now, and I feel like just because the world is changing so rapidly, more people want to have control over their destiny.
Of course.
So what does one need to do to establish that brand? I get DMs all day long. Take a look at my brand. Tell me what you think. I don't know how to answer that, Dean, because I know nothing about that person.
Yeah. That's great. So a couple questions. Where are you from originally?
Jersey. Born and raised. Still here.
Got it. Still in New Jersey. I heard a little Brooklyn or Jersey accent there. I grew up in New York. So
I know. You were just in Newark not too long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'd say, and this is reflecting back of being in the knowledge industry, the information age, information industry, whatever you want to call it. I've been in it for 24 years. Yeah. Not many people have been in that long and stayed relevant, except for my partner and friend, Tony Robbins, got 40 years in this space, right? But if you look at the people who, again, not just saying me like, hey, I'm great, look what I did, follow me. But you look at Tony, you look at myself, you look at other people that have been consistent, making a great message. What they didn't do is follow trends on what they thought their brand should be. So I see people come out, you get a new influencer. And I don't want you to think I'm dogging influencers, man. I love everybody who shares knowledge, even the guys that I think are doing it wrong. There's probably value in there someplace. I wish some of them, I just want to shake them and say, dude, stop with the show. Just freaking, you made it here. Freaking show people really how you did it in here, right? So I don't want you to think I'm like this, this industry. Like, I hope it cleans up in some areas. But what I believe the people who make it is they found who they were earlier and stayed with that, even if it wasn't popular, even if it wasn't cool. Because my grandmother taught me something when I was really young. She said, and I honestly didn't lie, and I've never caught my kids lying to me because I said the same thing to them. Like, two things. I told my kids, you'll never have curfews. I won't be that dad that grounds you. I won't do any of that stuff if you never lie to me. You could tell me anything and don't lie to me. I'll trust you. I said, my daughter, I said, when you're, and this is going to get to your answer. I said, babe, when you're 14 years old and you want to stop by a guy's house that you have a crush on with your friends, or 16 years old, whatever that age is, I don't even know. She's not. I said, there's two ways to go about it. You can lie and say you're going to the mall and sneak there, and I could find out. And then that sucks that I won't trust you ever again. Or you could say, hey, Dad, because I've been telling them since they were little when I drive them to school. I'm like, well, can you tell Dad anything, right? That's how I've been programmed.
I love it.
Start doing it with your son in about a year. What can you tell Dad? Anything. So my kids can tell me anything and I don't freak out. Even though internally I'd want to be upset, I don't. So I said to my daughter, if you tell me the truth when you're 15, 16, you like a boy, and say, hey, Dad, I don't want to talk about this guy I got a crush on, but I'd really love to swing by his house or meet him at the mall. Can I? I said, then I know where you are. I believe you. That's what all kids do. Most kids lie. I'll trust you, and you'll have zero rules like all your friends are. I said, lie to me one time and I can't trust you. I'll watch everything. I'll hire a freaking private investigator to watch you. And they got that. So the reason I shared all that, and I got off track a little bit, but when it comes back to branding, I believe that transparency of who you are allows what my grandmother taught me, and my grandmother taught me this. If you lie, you have to remember it. You never have to remember the truth, because the truth is just the truth. Now, you probably heard that, and you think it doesn't equate to your business. It equates to everything in your business. If the new trend is cryptocurrency and you jump on that, the new trend is showing flashy cars, if the new trend is to be more liberal or be more conservative, if you go with those trends, you will get a small demographic of people that'll follow you for a time. And then when you change, you're looking to find someone else and restructure and rebrand at different pages and different that. It's like what I hope to be is I hope if somebody listens to me here, Henry, or any podcast or reads Millionaire Success Habits, or they read my new book coming out, or they get involved in the Knowledge Business Blueprint, or they see me on stage, or they see me at a Tony event or our own event, they go, that guy's just Dean. Like the greatest gift in the world would the greatest compliment I could get is if people go, man, that's Dean. So the reason I'm sharing this with you guys, when you want to know about your brand, just be the most transparent, authentic version of yourself consistently. And here's the thing I want to tell you. If you are honest with yourself and you say, this is the man I am, this is the woman I am, and you find an area that you think you should hide because it's hosed up or screwed up, go fix that area of your life. Be authentic. Listen, Henry, the thing I talk about for years in my business is I'm 50 years old. I'm in the best shape of my life. I eat incredibly healthy. I work out every day. My brand has been consistently, relevant for over 20 years. I have done $1 billion in sales. I do create the greatest teams in the world. My teams, I love my team. They're my family. We have values. We have structure. We have culture. But I'll be honest with you. I was in a bad relationship. I don't say bad. My ex is amazing. We're dear friends, but we weren't connected. We stayed together because we had children. He was a child of divorce. I was a child of divorce. We got pregnant before we decided we want to. We said, let's do this. I didn't talk about relationships for 6 years. I never posted my wife on any of my social media. And people are like, why don't you talk about relationships? You know why? Because I fucking sucked at it. I was in a bad relationship. My ex deserved more. I deserved more. We tried 50 different ways. We didn't give up. We tried. We knew it was over. We were both staying because we were afraid of our children being fragmented. 3 years ago, we decided mutually to end it. We're better friends now. My kids are thriving. I'm married to the love of my life. She's in the best relationship of her life. We still talk every day. Our kids love that we're friends. Everything is so much better. So now I can be authentic and I can talk about relationships. But I can tell you, I freaking screwed up. Yeah. I was not the man I should have been in that relationship. I stayed way too long, or maybe I didn't fix it in time, but I couldn't anymore. It was too late. But that's never going to happen again because I know how I screwed up. We're 3 years in, 2.5 years in with my wife, and it's the greatest relationship of my life every single day because I knew what I did wrong. But I shared all that, and getting back to branding is my advice would be, and Henry, you're a specialist at this, so I'd love your feedback on this. Mm-hmm. My advice would be find a way to be so damn authentic, be raw, be real, and admit the places you suck at. It makes you more vulnerable. It makes you seem real. Dude, I went broke. I had a terrible relationship. I woke up every morning for 5 years thinking, how am I going to end this relationship and my kids be okay? For 5 years, dude. Like you would think the personal growth guy, the guy that wrote Success Habits book, the guy that's all this, he's got all this shit figured out. I didn't have that shit figured out, dude, until it got so painful I couldn't take it. But when I share that, I hope people go, wow, this guy is real. And I'm not making up a story. I'm not doing it for glory. I'm doing it because this is who I am. Yeah. But if you want to learn marketing, there's not many people on the planet better than me. If you want to learn how to be an influencer, that's what I've done and impact people's lives. Like, share what you're good at, go deep, be vulnerable, stay consistent. Doesn't matter what the trends are. Doesn't matter what the world is. You be you, and all of a sudden you'll start getting people who follow you, and they'll be so loyal that they'll tell friends and family, and all of a sudden not only your marketing and your direct response spend and your Facebook ads, you'll have this viral piece growing. You won't even see it. And all of a sudden 1, 2, 4 years in, you're like, holy shit, my brand exploded overnight. It didn't explode overnight. It exploded because it all of a sudden spilled over that your heart was so transparent. People told their friends.
Yeah. When I was growing up in Long Branch, I was one of 50 white kids in my whole high school. So they used to call me the cool ass white bread. Right. Okay. So when we were out in the park, either playing pickup basketball, pickup football, right, we would have kids that used to like to run their mouth. So the word in the park was, if you're going to run your mouth like that, show and prove. So, and that was the slogan or tagline that my classmates sort of embedded into me my whole life. And now I go into my business world and my entrepreneur journey, and I say, holy shit, it's time to show and prove. Otherwise, we're screwed. I'm screwed. Nobody's going to believe me. You there, Dean? So we're on the basketball court, we're on the football field, and we had these guys that love to run their mouths. So we would say, well, if you're going to talk that game, show and prove. So I grew up with that philosophy in my head, show and prove. So the thing that I want to share with the audience real quick is this. If you're coming online and you're super polished all the time, I'm going to actually get a little bit more skeptical than if you came and said, I had one of the shittiest days in the world, and here's why. I'm going to learn more from you from that story of that shitty day than you walking around polished 90% of the time. So there's times online where I'm like, I am not in a creative mood today. I'm out, and I go for a walk with my dog. I'll take my son out of school early, and we'll go hang out. The point that I'm trying to make is people are voyeurs. They want to see the good and the bad. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to resonate and connect with you on your struggles more than your successes. So I'm just backing up what you said. I think you're spot on. I think people just are so afraid about what people are going to say about them. And they're going to start to think, oh, well, they may not think that I have it all together. I'm supposed to be the expert here, but I don't know. Listen, nobody knows everything.
None of us have it all together.
No. So I love that you are so vulnerable. The reason why you're on the show today is because I was like, holy shit, I am so aligned with Dean's philosophy and values. Now, how would I be able to connect with you on such a deep level? You barely know me. It's because you gave your all on every podcast I watch you on. Chris Pfaff, what's his name? Drama over there. I watched that episode. That was a great conversation with you guys. You know, and you let it all out. And I'm like, you're telling these stories over and over and over. And I'm going, holy shit. I went through something like that. Holy shit. I need to dig more into what he's talking about because he's experienced it before me. So again, there's just this natural connection. People want to connect with people. Period. Bottom line, end of story. People will buy you before they buy your product or service. I bought into Dean well before I purchased your first book.
Yeah.
And that's so listen, I value your time and I don't want to run this to the end and give you 5 minutes here. I think you've given our audience by face. I just went live like halfway through on Facebook and I'm getting all these messages over here by James and Monica and Al. But what I really want to do is you have this new book coming out. And when I heard the title of it, I was like, whoa. So tell the audience the title of the book and what the preface of the book is and why you wrote it.
Yeah. So I'll start with you though. Without knowing too much of your past, did you ever feel like you were an underdog?
Oh my God. I tell this, let me tell you a quick story. I'll tell you a quick story. Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. So I was a chubby little Italian kid. Don't get confused by the last name Kaminski. My mother was half Italian, half Spanish. So I get a lot of my personality and attitude from her. So I was a chunky little son of a bitch when I was a kid. So they threw me in soccer, like BYAA, like the town league. Dean, I fucking hated it because it took me 3 wins just to get to the other side of the field, right? So what happens is, I don't know how we made it, but we made it to the championship game. In 1988, I was 8 years old. We make it to the championship game. There's 300 people on the sideline. Every time I would chase after this ball, it would be on one side of the field. By the time my chubby little ass got to that side of the field, guess where the ball was?
They were going the other way.
All the way on the other side. So this is going on and on the whole game, right? So now I'm like at my wit's end. And I am literally, Dean, ready to walk off the field because I've had it. Out of the 300 people on that sideline, I saw one person, and it was my dad. And he said, and I can hear him screaming to this day because his voice is so distinct, "Go! Go! Get that ball! Go!" Screaming. I don't know what came over me, Dean, but I had rockets in my ass. I trotted after that ball so hard, tracked it down, blew everybody aside, finally had control of the ball. I never touched the ball the whole season, basically, right? Got it down the field and fucking scored my first and only goal in my entire soccer career. I live my life today, 39 years old, by that story.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And again, literally, I'm sitting, you can't see it, but I got goosebumps because I love the underdog story. But your example is the reason I wrote the book. And the name of the book is The Underdog Advantage. Because what most of the world doesn't realize that our disadvantages, our so-called disadvantages, are actually our rocket fuel to be more successful than anybody else. Most of the time, people with privilege, and I don't mean this, my kids have a life of privilege. I have to create scenarios in them, right? They don't know anything different. They live in a house that's like a hotel, right? We fly private jets. Like, they don't know. I lived in a trailer park. I had nothing, right? But it doesn't matter if you're born with that. I'm teaching my kids to have an underdog instinct, an underdog mindset. And here's what I want to share. Just take your scenario on the soccer field, right? You're a little overweight, right? You're not the fastest kid. Like, you felt disadvantaged, but you were out there anyway. Let me just ask you, did anything change in that moment? Did you change? Did you automatically lose weight?
No.
Did you automatically get faster? Did you automatically get taller? Did you go through puberty while you were on the field and nothing changed? The only thing that changed, Henry, and this is not just, I'm going to go deeper. The only thing that changed on that field is that disadvantage that you thought you had this whole time playing soccer. Overweight, not that fast, can't get the ball. In a moment, you flipped the switch, and that shit became your fuel. And it's like, without realizing, you were like, I don't care that I'm shorter. I don't care that I'm overweight. I don't care that I'm not fast. You took a disadvantage, made it your freaking rocket fuel, and you changed the history of your life probably in that moment. And I say that, I'm not kidding. I have goosebumps. I got them on my face right now because that's where life changes. And most of the world never get to see that they have another level. They don't get to see that all of these things stacked up against them are actually a gift from God, because when you flip them, it is your rocket fuel. Did you ever feel like you wanted to prove those people wrong?
Oh, hell yeah.
Did you ever feel that you were underestimated?
Oh, for sure.
Did people ever tell you were a dreamer in your life?
Oh, my God. Of course.
Did people tell you, hey, Henry, it's time to get real, dude. Come on. I know you got this dream of having a podcast, do stuff, but come on. You got kids now. Let's get this real. Get a real job, right? All of those things, here's the deal. All of those things to the majority of the world make people go, maybe they're right. And you only need a glimpse. 20 people tell you, dude, you're not going to do a podcast. You're this guy from Jersey. That's good. You're good with brands. Like, whatever it is you're doing, people tell you that, right? And most of the time you fend them off. Mm-hmm. But when you hear it 10, 15 times, if only 5% sinks in, then one morning you wake up and go, you know what? I do have a 2-year-old son now. Maybe I should just, and that's it. It's over. Mm-hmm. Boom. Right? Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. You are strong enough subconsciously to take your disadvantages and to make them your advantages. No. Most people aren't. No. Most of the world, you know what, maybe I should take that job. Maybe I should stop playing the guitar. Maybe I should stop trying to be an influencer and help other people. Maybe I shouldn't try to do masterminds. Maybe I should just, my dad's buddy's got that company. I could go work for them. And they're disadvantaged. Because everybody in the world feels like an underdog at some point. And once we realize that is our gift, life changes. And I knew I had to write a book to identify what I believe are the 7 biggest underdog advantages. Like, something right now as you're listening you think is holding you back. If I give you one chapter out of this book, you go, holy shit, the thing I thought was holding me back is actually where I go for the fuel.
Yeah.
Listen, I geeked out when I wrote this book. I love this book. I can't wait for the world to see it and read it. But I geeked out. I listened to a 42-hour book on George Washington's life. Now, everybody knows George Washington had a disadvantage and ended up being the guy who made America what it is, right? Everybody knows that. But, man, I dug into knowing the day was like a 42-hour listen. He is the quintessential underdog. Everything he did, he wasn't a part, like he originally started out, and I don't want to digress too long, but he originally started out in the British regiment for the colonies when we were under British rule, right? But since he was American born, they were prejudiced against him. So he got half the salary of all the British born soldiers that lived in America. He got all the shitty jobs. He was the one that when they'd go for a meeting, even though like he was in the army making decisions, they'd say, oh, I'm sorry, you're not allowed in this room. And they'd close the door on him and they'd go have the meeting because he was American born. He was shit. And because his dad had money but ran out because he was the fifth child, by the time it got to George Washington, he was the only one that didn't send off to college. So now he's got no college. His dad dies. He's living with his mom, who's a freaking, I can't stand his mother. She's so mean to him. He never did anything right in her eyes. It doesn't matter what he did. It wasn't enough for her. So she was mean to him, didn't go to college, all of these things against him. But he found a way to make it his fuel. He wasn't, oh, poor me, I don't have college. My brothers do. Shit, I'm not going to make it. He's like, okay, I'm going to study and be a land surveyor so I understand the architecture or the kind of the land. So if I ever become, a general, I'll know the land better than anybody. So when it went that, he knew the topography. He knew it like no one knew it, right? But just think about this. He had one thing I call the power of you can't. Most people are told they can't. Eventually they go, maybe I can't. People who turn their underdog advantage into advantage go, I'm at a point in my life when people say you can't. I'm like, oh, hell yes, that means I can, right? So I turn that into a fuel, and there's a process. So people telling him he can't, people underestimating him, people not expecting him to do anything. They never saw him coming, dude. They never saw him coming. When he flipped to the colonial army to fight the British, I want to fast forward all this. There's no way he should have made it. Wasn't smart enough. Didn't have the money. None of this stuff. This guy ends up leading the colonial army to fight against British. And I just want to give this one thing because everybody knows the story, but not the details. Just picture this. Don't picture this George Washington character. Picture it yourself. He decides to take on the strongest army in the history of the world. The British army at that phase, no one messed with them. Wherever they go, they conquer. So they find out that this little ragtag revolutionary army is going against them. They fight in Boston. Now they're in New York City. The King of England sends 30,000 troops. 10 of them are Hessians. They're trained killers from Germany. They're hired by the king. They're getting paid to go over, and he says, make an example, wipe them off the map. 30,000 of them come. They're in the Bay of New York. George Washington has 6,000 people from 14 to 60. Half of them don't have shoes or clothes. It's winter. They're walking through the snow, and there's blood trails because they don't have shoes. They only have enough gunpowder that each person has one shot. They come in. They send the Hessians in. They send the 30,000 troops in. They take Brooklyn. They take Staten Island. They take Fort Lee, New Jersey. They take it all in 2 minutes. They wipe about 6,000 to about 4,000. And then the British says, let's put an end to this. They hand out flyers. It says, if you come over to our side, we'll forgive you and we'll give you money. So another 1,000 or 2 soldiers run over to the British side. Now there's George Washington's got 3,000 people. Again, don't look at this as like a historic thing. Look at it. You're in this picture. You just get destroyed by the strongest army in the world. And the Hessians are so ruthless, about 1,000 of them gave up, and they killed them with bayonets. They just went and killed all of them to make an example like, don't screw with us. You guys, you stupid little colonials with nothing, stop. So we're going to make an example. So now George Washington crosses the Hudson, and he's running through New Jersey with 3,000 people trying to escape this army coming to wipe them out. If you don't know the end, right there you go, it's over. How does 30,000 of the strongest army in brass, lots of guns, going, and they don't have any food? They're literally stopping at farms trying to get corn off the husks. Like, they got nothing, dude. You think it's over. But because he was an underdog, because they made fun of him, because they didn't think he was smart enough, because he had to be resourceful. People in today's world, and you think you need resources, you don't. If you could have a choice between resources, somebody giving you money, or be resourceful as shit, take resourcefulness, not resources. Resourcefulness wins 100% of the time. George Washington gets his men together. He finds out on the other side of the Delaware, that's the famous Delaware crossing, he finds out that the 10,000 Hessians are on the other side. It's Christmas Day. They just kicked George Washington's thing's ass. It's Christmas night. They decide to party. There's no way George Washington would have the balls to attack us. So they put down their arms. They drink. They party. George Washington, in the middle of the night, the coldest night of the year, icebergs on the Delaware River, gets 3,000 troops across in the middle of the night. 5 o'clock in the morning, 3,000 ragtag colonial army attack the 10,000 Hessians. They beat them in 45 minutes because they didn't know they were coming. And that's one of the things I love about underdogs is they never see you coming. People underestimate you, so they don't know you're going to kick their ass. He goes in and takes 10,000 Hessians. He gets them to surrender. He takes their clothes. He takes their food. He takes their guns. And then he goes up to Princeton and wins a second little battle. And that's the beginning of the end. 7 years later, we're the greatest country in the history of the world because of the greatest underdog who was underestimated, underappreciated, undervalued, didn't have resources, was resourceful as shit. And there's story after story like that. And I just took all of that and said, I'm going to write a book to empower the underdogs, which is all of us, empower us to say, no, I don't need more resources. I got fucking resourcefulness and I'm going to get what I deserve. So you can I'm passionate about this book. I think Millionaire Success Habits is almost at 1 million copies right now. I feel so blessed. One of the best-selling books of the last couple of years. I think this one might blow past that because I feel like we all feel like underdogs and we all need the process to switch that. And that's it, man. I'm so stoked about that book.
Oh, man. Well, you got to let me know when it launched. When is the launch date?
Yeah, this first week of December, and we set up a link. If your peeps want to go get it, they can just go get it at deansbook.com. So we got it up at deansbook.com, and you can get it on Amazon. I think it's going to be $19 on Amazon, or you can get it at my link. You get it for free. Just cover the shipping and handling. So either way is great with me. But if you ever felt like an underdog and you'd like the ability to see a clear path to switch that. And I also share stories in there that I've never shared anyplace else. I go deep on stuff I went through in my life, not because, oh, look at me, just so people can reference their own life and then find that fuel. So I think it's gonna be my best-selling book, and I can't wait for the world to read it.
Oh, I can't wait for it to hit the world either. I can't wait to pick up a copy myself. You know, it's funny. You're saying all of this, and I'm saying to myself, wow, this is something recent that happened to me. You know, I've been working now. I had Unique Designs, my business for 13 years. And the past 5 years, I could say, have been probably the best. I've been most fulfilled, the best clients, really got my model down right. I'm talking to my mentor one day, and he says, you know, you're a high energy guy. That's why, again, your energy, I'm just eating it up because this is how I am with my clients and how I am with my audience. So he says to me, I want to help you get more clients like you, because I think you would really, you'd be able to take them to even higher levels. So he says, how do you feel about pro athletes? Do you like sports? And I go, I love sports. I'm no analyst by any means, but I'm a huge sports fanatic. I'm sorry. You know, I watch it occasionally. He says, I think athletes would absolutely benefit from what you bring to the table. So I was like, but Chris, it's like starting all over. I don't have any athlete clients. And he says, that's what's going to make it even more fun. You got to get resourceful and get out there and let the world know that these are the clients that you want to work with. Dean, crazy as shit. A week later, I get a DM, random. Guy says to me, what's your deal? I just found out about you. Just popped up in my feed. I just want to know, like, what are you all about? He was like, what's your phone number? I'm like, bro, I was like, you know what? What the hell? I give him my phone number. Calls me up, played for the Green Bay Packers, and needs help with branding for a new business that he wants to create, right? So now I put out into the world that I want to work with these folks, right? Chris Howard shows up literally on my doorstep on Instagram, plays for the Jaguars. A good friend of ours is dating one of the cornerbacks for the Jets, going to hook us up and have a conversation. This is crazy, but here's the point that I want to make. All of these guys that I've been working with thus far, they were all underdogs. If
you'll dig into everybody, we're all underdogs, but right now only a few people know how to turn that into fuel, and I'm hoping the book allows everybody to do it.
And that's what I think people are so hungry for. And I congratulate you for picking up on this. Like, one thing about Dean, he's got his pulse. He's got the pulse on what people are feeling and what people are wanting right now. I think that is just a trait, God's gift, an X factor about you that
I feel that too. I feel like I really, even when I get on stages, I feel like I know what their hearts need.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's not what they think they need. They want one thing, but I know what they need, and I want to deliver them what they need, you know?
Right. Dean, I appreciate your time. You spent an hour. I had you booked for 30 minutes. So listen, man.
Dude, I enjoy your conversation. I enjoy the energy you give to the world, man. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And we're going to get you back on the show. There's some things in February that we could collab on and get the word out even more. So, Dean, I appreciate you so much for coming on the show and just sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and your experience, to my audience.
You got it, man. You have a great one. Keep up the good work.
You too. Take it easy.
You've been listening to the Brand Doctor Podcast with Henry Kaminski Jr. To get your appointment with the doctor, visit Brand Audit at www.uniquedesigns.net.